Hey, everybody, welcome to the Life by Genetics podcast. I'm Dave Mulcahy here with Chris Lippy. How are we doing today, Chris?
Excellent. Yourself?
I'm doing good, man. Doing anything fun this weekend? Anything fun, interesting happening?
This weekend, let's see.
Did you go to the Padres game?
Yeah, that was last weekend. We're going again next week to another game. It's getting exciting here. Like San Diego, I love my Padres. Being born and raised here, but it's been like such a brutal time being a Padre fan. But finally, it seems like we're making some good moves, and the team's playing well right now. So yeah, it's exciting to watch the games at night. And I got a little 2.5-year-old, and he just freaking loves everything about baseball. Like he can see the players on TV, and he's like Tatis and Manny, and he calls out them by name.
That's awesome.
So it makes it actually a lot of fun.
You guys have you have a killer picture of you two standing on like third base, getting ready to field balls. The intensity of the face was
Yeah.
priceless.
Yeah, that was really cool. We had a chance to go down there at Petco, and they have this little practice field, and he just was into it, man. The kid's, it's funny, and he can rake, man. He's hitting the ball hard, so it's fun. But for the weekend, like it was a great sunny weekend. We just hung out here at the house, and it's San Diego. You find stuff to go do.
That's awesome.
How was your weekend there in Illinois?
It was pretty good. We're getting smoked out by these Canadian wildfires. So everything, it's cooler. The temperature dropped from like 100 degrees constantly to like the mid 70s. And you go outside and it smells like burning plastic. So that's been a good time. But we got out on the boat a little bit, got some sun, and got to hang out with the family.
What lake do you go to?
Lake Delavan. It's by Lake Geneva here in Wisconsin, up in Wisconsin.
Yeah. So is Lake Geneva kind of the crowded one?
Yes, very.
And Delavan's more like the family set one. Is that?
Yeah, that's what we thought, but it seems like it's getting crowded. Like this has been a crowded year. I think there's more Airbnbs going up around there, and so Lake Geneva crowd is slowly coming over to Delavan. So we tied up with a couple other boats, friends, and we're talking with them, and they're like, we can't handle it. They're looking to move off the lake because of how busy it is this year already. So
this is crazy. Hey, a funny story about that is Lake Geneva. Previous business of mine had a really good a buddy, Dr. Jeremy Bria, that had a beautiful boat, and we'd go out on Lake Geneva, and we did it. I think it was around the 4th of July weekend, and they had an awesome, fireworks display and all that kind of stuff. And it was just an absolute zoo. But we'd go out to this one kind of far end from where we launched from, and like tie up with other boats and stuff. And it almost seems like a previous life, but a lot of fun, man. Great times. And
Lake Geneva's madness. You only go out on it if you have to, type of thing. But we go up to that little beach area. It's nice.
Look, you mentioned smoke, the Canadian smoke, and I'm not sure like if Canadian smoke's different than our smoke, but the reality around smoke
says sorry when it.
What's that?
It's nicer. It says sorry when you're joking about it. Sorry.
Does it have an accent? But smoke, we talk about on this show. We're talking about genetics and life by genetics, and there's some super good data around genetics and detoxification in our lungs through smoke. So we'll have to talk about that at some point and touch on that as well.
Yeah, it's a good idea. We'll put something up on social about that too, but I can't remember the gene off the top of my head, but I remember reading about it in my report.
Yeah. Well, look, I like today's topic a lot too, because we're gonna talk about exercise, and so often we talk about nutrition and how that kind of guides us genetically as we focus on, and most people out there in popular culture, they go straight to the nutrition side. And they go, well, what should I be eating based on my genetics? And that's really common, and that's great and all, and a huge part of what we talk about. But the other part is exercise, because half of that equation that a doctor tells you, they say, hey, watch your diet and exercise. What the heck does that really mean? What does it mean? That's why you and I are going to be living our life by genetics, and the exercise component is not something that really people talk about. So we've got some cool data that we're going to kind of dig into. So
What's been your experience with exercise like over your life? Have you been a hey, I get up every morning and I can't wait to exercise type of person, or not so much?
I mean, look, I think I would call myself a casual exerciser,
Okay.
but fairly consistent. I don't think I ever really go more than 3 months of kind of just dormant, no exercise. But my exercise would be like, some 25-pound dumbbells and do a little bit of, military press, maybe some squats or whatever, and then just some light jogging, like just general stuff, and then watch my diet. And that was kind of, it served me well over my years until recently, which, we'll talk about it another time. But so that's kind of been my really casual, growing up, as a kid, I was a little bit more of a runner, would do some 10Ks, a half marathon, that kind of stuff. I don't know that I really ever liked it, a whole lot. It wasn't like I felt that need to have to get to the gym. So it was more of just kind of a casual exercise for me. What about you? I know, look, you're an athlete, man. You've played rugby.
Wanted to be one, yeah. Yeah, I always liked running. And I remember playing football in high school, and that was the only time really being in the weight room. And I wasn't a big fan of being in the weight room, but it worked. I look back at pictures, and I probably should have stayed going in the weight room. That would have been good. But then I played rugby in college, avoided the weight room as much as possible, just focused on staying, fast and being twitchy. But other than that, I've just always been kind of a runner. I felt like that was always best for me. And then a couple ankle injuries kind of slowed me down a little bit. And now I do some exercise, martial arts. I don't play rugby much anymore. Maybe once a year I'll hop in a match, but I try to just stay. I'll do some HIIT workouts and some of that stuff. But if I could get up and just walk, that usually works better than doing any. I don't have a set routine. I guess I should probably be better at it.
Yeah, I think that's kind of me too. No real set routine.
Mm-hmm.
That might actually be, in the long run, kind of a good thing, because you get a better, whole body workout. So wait, as a rugby player, like I would think it seems like a pretty brutal sport. Like, I've never played. I've only watched a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I watch a little bit more Aussie rules football because I've got some business stuff down in Australia.
Yeah.
But dude, it just seems incredibly like physical. Not just the running and the endurance side of it, but like being hit and tackled, and like there's so many components. You just have to be really well rounded. So like exercise, like is around weightlifting. I would think that bulking up would be really important. It's not something that was kind of, or is it just your natural stature that you have?
Yeah, a lot of guys did. I wasn't. Once I got into college, I wasn't super into it as much as I did. I did what I had to do to for the team and all, but it was more of a club sport, so it's not like people were kicking you out for for not doing it. But I would say I notice more now. Like, I play one match and I hurt for a month because I just don't have the muscle tone. I don't know if it's like the callousing or what it is, but you get hit and it hurts way more than it used to. It didn't used to hurt this bad. So that's why I did this year. I was like, I'm going to stay out because I don't want to hurt for a whole month afterwards. But I would say, people always compare it to football and think it's more brutal than football. I hurt a lot more playing football than I did rugby, just because rugby, really? You got like skin on skin, bone on bone hitting.
Okay.
People are only going to hit you as hard as they want to feel that impact, so it's like you're going to tackle somebody, but you don't want to lay them out the same way that they do in football. Where football, as soon as you put that helmet on, it's like you have a cinder block on your head that you want to run through somebody with. And so I remember getting hurt way more. Never had a concussion. I played rugby like 15 years, never had a concussion, but I had multiple playing just 3 years of football in high school. So, I mean, there are plenty of people that have concussions playing rugby, but I just didn't see it as much as you do with football.
I mean, you're right. Football is like, it is a brutal sport, and you put that helmet on and you think, I mean, number one, like you said, a cinder block, but also I think you have this false sense of security. Like, I'm protected because I've got some pads on and so forth. But dude, I mean, I played a little bit in high school, just, didn't play a whole lot, but a little bit. And I remember just like my shins being welted up, and like after games, it was crazy.
I mean,
Not fun.
The good thing is that a lot of I don't know so much the NFL, but I know a lot of Pee Wee teams now, and all the way up through high school, maybe even some colleges you can see are adopting the rugby form of tackling. Because in football, you put your head in front when you're tackling. So a runner's running, you want to get your head in front of them to cut them off because you don't want them to get any more yards. Where in rugby, the yards don't matter as long as they're not scoring. If they get 2 extra yards, so you can get your head behind them, keep your head out of the way, and tackle them forward without having to blast them the way that they do in football. And they're teaching that style of tackling. So you're going to see hopefully a lot less head and neck injuries coming up.
That's actually it's pretty fascinating. I think it's, what's cool is that, we're advancing. We're looking at things that can be safer and understand that way. I had never known that about rugby. I mean, it makes sense because I did realize that there's not like yard markers. It's, if you're tackled, you just start from that next spot.
Yep.
I think.
You ruck right there. So the ball's, it's always live unless it goes out of bounds.
Okay.
So there's a penalty. So if you get tackled, it's like everyone kind of is going for the ball wherever the tackle happens. There's no like stoppage of play and then reset.
Right. Okay.
It's just live back and forth. So you can steal the ball and run the other direction, and then if you get tackled, the other team takes the ball to go in the other direction. So it's just constant back and forth.
Do you guys play 2 halves in rugby?
Yeah, 2 halves, 40 minutes.
40 minutes each half or 20 each?
40 minutes each half. Yeah.
Whoa.
So now as we get older, it's more like, we play 420s. We get a little extra water break in there. Stretch, stretch and get some water.
Yeah.
Maybe a beer.
Ice baths set up on the
sideline. No, they didn't. No. They should. That takes money.
It's funny you mentioned being sore for a month. But what it's like now if you go out once a year, it'd be a month that you'd be sore. I kind of had that happen to me this weekend. I decided to go out for a little bit different exercise. So I ran some hill sprints, just really short. Like I tried to go 2 minutes, up as much as possible and then just walk back down it and keep doing it. And I think I got 24 minutes of total time in. The first one I made about 2 minutes of running, and then I had to kind of walk the rest and then walk down. It got worse from there. I was running like 30 seconds, but I woke up the next day. I didn't feel too bad, but then the middle of that second day, my calves hurt, my hips, everything hurt. And I'm like, what is going on? This is nuts. And so now I'm like 3 or 4 days past it. I'm still really sore. Like even my upper body hurts. I'm like, what in the world is going on? And so I actually kind of dug into like my genetic report around exercise. And have you looked at your report around exercise a whole lot?
I have, yeah. It was probably the first thing that I flipped to, I think, once I got the report. I was like, ooh.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I found some interesting things in there. Like one was it says I have a high risk of ankle and hamstring injuries. And I wish I would have known that probably when I was 15 or 16, because that would have I would have probably taken better care of them. Because that was always my weak spot, was my hamstrings and my ankles.
Yeah, and there's some things you can do that if you would have known at 16 that you could have taken care of. So the injury thing is the same. There's the same gene class of genes, ACTN3, that kind of encodes the body for strength, building strength, recovery, all of that kind of area. And so if you would have known some things, there's some great nutrients. Obviously, magnesium and calcium are really important to contraction and resting in muscles, but there's also something called manganese, and that helps with the tone and the strength of those ligaments and tendons. So anyway, some cool stuff around that. But so I dug into mine and I'm like, okay, I'm going to go out and do this exercise because of, my report. And I hadn't really looked at it. I'm like, I was more interested like in the cognition side, cardiovascular, just health-wise and nutrients. And then I saw this on the exercise and I'm like, man, this is really fascinating. And it's really cool too, in that it tells us what type of exercise is best for us. Mm-hmm. But then also which is the worst for us. So in my mind, I'm like, man, there's like some exercise that's bad for you. And so it's really like pretty fascinating.
Yeah.
Can I dig into this for a second?
Yeah, man. Please go ahead.
So the ACTN gene, the fascinating piece with this is that it encodes the body and the muscle fibers themselves and how they oxygenate. So when they get oxygen, it's kind of like food to that muscle tissue in a sense. Yes, nutrients are important, but we need the oxygen as well. So it receives this and it helps keep those fibers pliable so that you don't have injuries, that they don't tighten, which leads to tightening fascia, like tension in the neck area or hamstrings that get tight. The body all tightens up, and that's not good because that ends up creating some inflammation. But there's a series of studies that were done that looked at the three primary different types of exercise. One being endurance exercise. So that would be like, you mentioned you used to like to run. This would be like longer distance running at like a moderate heart rate for a longer period of time. It could be swimming, things like that, right? Longer period of time, moderate heart rate. And then there's weightlifting and resistance. It could be your own body weight through push-ups, pull-ups, things like that, or it could be weightlifting. And some people respond really well to that. Again, still looking at that ACTN3 gene. And then the third one is something you mentioned earlier, was HIIT training. And I thought, when I saw mine, I thought, I'm probably like a runner. I kind of have a little bit of runner body style. I've always kind of weighed like 170 pretty much my whole life, 160, 170. I thought, I got to be a runner, right? And oddly enough, I'm not a runner. I'm not a weightlifter. I should have been in the HIIT category, doing high intensity training, especially around some interval type training stuff. It's honestly been really nothing that I've done before. So doing these hill sprints and then the recovery, I was super sore from it. But ultimately what it's telling me is that that's the best for me cardiovascularly and circulation wise, and also the least damaging to my body from an inflammatory standpoint. And so this is what's really cool and fascinating around the scientists that worked on this test is there's a gene SOD2. SOD takes a look at superoxide dismutase. Big word, don't really care about that a whole lot, but the reality is that inflammation in our body, when it's sustained, that's what leads to disease. So if we're trying to avoid disease and we're doing exercise that's creating more inflammation, dude, like, is our exercise like slowly killing us? I mean, like, it's kind of goofy, but the reality is, yeah, it could be creating more inflammation and doing more harm than good. So, so I'm supposed to be a HIIT trainer. Like, I'm out doing this high intensity training. So I'm going to give it a shot, see how it goes. I got my first one of the books. I can move fairly good today. So maybe tomorrow morning I'll do it again and see how it goes. Or I might look for different variations in the HIIT training. What kind of HIIT training stuff do you do?
Yeah. So I found HIIT workouts probably, it's kind of funny. I used to work in politics. I worked on a presidential campaign with Herman Cain when he was running back in 2011. And I remember the campaign ending, and I was like, we were doing a fundraiser in Oklahoma. I think it was Oklahoma City, and we were like, kind of bummed because he had just announced that he had canceled his campaign. And so I was sitting watching like infomercials. It was like 2:00 in the morning, just watching TV at the hotel, trying to figure out, okay, what am I going to do now with my life? And an infomercial came on for this insanity workout, and I was like, and they're talking about all these like 40-year-old guy. I was probably like 25 maybe. And there was like this 40-year-old guy that was lost all this weight. And I'm like, man, this looks fun, And I was just getting over a sprained ankle and hadn't played rugby in like 6 months and probably put on on a campaign for 6 months when you're traveling. I was home maybe like a week in those 6 months and eating out every day, not sleeping, drinking coffee nonstop and, coffee, sugar, and all the other crap. I put on way too much weight. So I was like, when I get home, I need to right the ship. So I bought this insanity workout where it came in like DVD. It was like a 5 DVD set.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
And started doing that, and that I worked out really well for me. I remember my wife trying to do it with me. I think, you know, we weren't married at the time, so just girlfriend, fiance at the time.
Yeah.
And she's like, "This is terrible on my knees. This is terrible on my ankles," and I was loving it. I was like, "This is great." So I still continue to go back to that Insanity workout. Now you can just stream it through like,
Right.
whatever it is, Beach Body, I think it is.
Yeah.
And so I'll do those like maybe once or twice a week. I'll try to do those once or twice a week, depending on how I'm feeling. But that's always been the HIIT workouts that I've found the most useful for me.
So Dave, you just made a really good point, is that it was great for you,
Mm-hmm.
but Steph would try to do it and it didn't work for her. It was like, oh man, her knees hurt, whatever. That's the importance of understanding this stuff, is that, you know, if we live our life by our genetics, like it's such a new field that people have to figure this out, because it's going to increase not just longevity, but the quality of life, doing things that you want to do later in life. And so, I mean, that's a great example right there, is that you loved it. She didn't like it so much. Do you guys have anything else in your life that she loves and you hate? Like maybe a food, or
there's plenty of foods. She could just live off vegetables if she wanted. I could probably just live off meat. So we, you know, we've got that kind of got to balance each other out. I mean, I think just her workouts, like she loves doing yoga and some of that stuff, and I'm like, oh, this is boring for me. I need something higher, more distracting, you know, more energy output for me than that.
Have you ever tried Pilates?
I haven't, no.
Look, I thought, oh, this can't be that hard. So I went with my wife, and they got like this device thing. You sit on it, like moves, like there's these ropes and it stretches you, and it was bizarre, right? But so I'm like, I can do this. No big deal. And literally, I'm not joking. At about 15, 16 minutes into a 40-minute class or workout, I had to stop. It was brutal. Like, what in the world? And one of our good friends, Dr. Williams, he does a lot within Pilates and really likes it. And just thinking about it now, when you were mentioning that, you know, what she likes, and then I thought, oh, I tried that, dude. It kicked my ass. It was, dude, like there were muscle fibers that had never moved in my life, and they moved.
Yeah.
It was really rough. Like for a week, dude, like you couldn't touch me. It was like I was super sunburned or something. And if you were to touch me, dude, it hurt so bad.
Interesting. I've got a buddy that I played rugby with. He's one of my best friends, and him and his wife just opened a bar studio. I think it's called Barre, Barre. And I think they do Pilates. I think Pilates is a big part of that. And it just opened in Hinsdale, Illinois, down here.
Yeah.
I think they're opening this week, or, you know, and they do Pilates. So that's interesting. I've never tried it though. So maybe I'll stop in there. And
so the name of the place is Barre?
I think it's Barre Method, Barre.
Oh, okay. The method.
I think it's a franchise kind of setup, but yeah.
Dude, our wives are going to watch this. They're going to be like, these guys are talking about bars. At first, when you said it, I thought it was like a place to get a drink.
Oh, no. Yeah, different type of bar. That's the type of bar he would open, but his wife was in charge, and she opened the other kind. So I'm looking at my genetic test here. I'm the same. So it's like exercise, weightlifting causes more inflammation for me. Endurance, exercise, I think endurance, I'm guessing that's just cardio and running. That gives me more inflammation as well. And then HIIT, the high intensity exercise, gives me less inflammation. So
that's exactly where I'm at. Yep. Yeah. That's my combination as well. You know, here's another thing that I thought about with this literally just right now is, so in today's world, like everybody exercises. They get a gym membership in January, they go 4 or 5 times, and then they pay for their membership the rest of the year, but don't go. So they think they're doing something good by joining these gyms, right? And the exercise piece, the whole industry is geared towards that. How do we get people into memberships? And on the nutrition side, we teach how to eat in 3 groupings: protein, fats, and carbohydrates. And we go, okay, well, what percentage of my diet should be from carbohydrates, protein, or fats? And I think a way to look at this, and again, we've not done this. I'm just now kind of mentioning this to you, but I think because there's these three categories that we have, that high intensity is the thing that I should be doing the most, and you too. And then secondary and thirdly is going to be like some weightlifting or some longer running. Yes, it creates more inflammation. Most of the studies have tracked this over years of time. So if you do it in short periods, I think there's still the health benefit of doing some weightlifting or going out for a run, to where you have a slower, not slow, but you have a heart rate that's not at that 85% mark like in HIIT training. And doing that occasionally, I think, is good. So I think we need to look at exercise a little bit differently than we have, and getting variety. You mentioned it earlier about, what have I always done and what have you done for working out? I think variety is a really good way to do this. Is like, just don't do the same thing over and over again, but have my primary workouts be HIIT training type stuff, whether it's this, you call it beach body intensity or something,
Insanity,
whether it's that or hill sprints. But then, one day a week, I do a little bit longer run for, well, at my health level now, for maybe a mile or two, and lift a little bit of weights, another day. But still, the core is around high intensity training. And if we build exercise plans, I think now our genetics is telling us that. They're telling us how to do this stuff so that we can have the benefits cardiovascular and circulation wise, and create less inflammation so that we don't, age faster. So I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I always thought it had to do with, we talked about COMT a little bit on a previous, I just thought it had to do with me getting bored of workouts. And that's why I liked the HIIT and like that high interval, just, jumping from thing to thing. I think a lot of people did. I never got into CrossFit, but I think a lot of people liked that style of working out because it kept them, they're jumping from thing to thing to thing. So by the time you're done, you're exhausted, but in 40 minutes, you got an amazing workout in doing 20 different things, So I always thought it was that, but now looking at this, and now it's like my body was clearly telling me what kind of workouts I like. Now I've had to change a little bit, and we can talk about this in the future with my lung issues that I've had. So I can't do them as much as I'd like to. So I have to mix in a little bit more of weight training or just body weight. I do more martial arts because I feel like that gives me a little bit more. It's less intense, on my lungs compared to. But I could do, if I did 20 squats, like you can feel it in your lungs, So I don't know if that counts as high interval, but my recovery is a lot longer. Let's put it that way.
What type of martial arts do you prefer?
I prefer doing jiu-jitsu and, and getting down to the mat and rolling around. I just can't do it for more than, 5 minutes at a time. 5 minutes is probably long, maybe more like 2 to 3 minutes at a time. So I can't do it as much as I like. So then I do martial arts like Taekwondo with my kids, because there's a little bit more kicking, punching, that sort of stuff. And it's less intensity.
Okay. Is there less contact as well?
So yeah, most of the time, like we're not, unless we're sparring, and sparring, even that, gets your heart rate up pretty good.
Right. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. How about you?
I've never done anything ever martial art wise, but I'm super intrigued. And I mean, UFC, I think, has done a great job bringing to the forefront jiu-jitsu and there's other techniques that are, again, I don't want to sound like I have no clue, but just in the reality is I've never been even around martial arts. But I think there's definitely a place there. I think it brings other core pieces, not just the heart rate aspect, but I think it talks a lot of, or you get a lot of work within balance. Mm-hmm. You get that connection between the physicalness and your mind. I think there's those aspects that, need to be looked at for health and longevity. Sure. I'd love to look at it. I know that for Luke, the little one, it's something that I've thought about for him is I want him to check it out. So it'd be kind of fun to do it with him.
Yeah, I started young. My parents gave me the choice between hockey or karate. Again, that's probably like Karate Kid was super popular and all that stuff. So I picked karate, and I like Ninja Turtles and some of that. So I started at like between 4 and 5, and went up until rugby and football kind of took over my life. I did that up to there, and then kind of made my way back once I got my kids into it. One of the things that I've wanted to pick up forever is swimming. I've never really been much of a swimmer, but I hear that's good for cardio and for exercise as well.
Yeah, I think that would be kind of falling into that endurance runner side. In high school, I did swim a little bit, but again, not enough to make really any difference. But I do remember liking when I finally got built up to the windedness. I did like kind of the endurance of swimming, and it felt like pretty good to me. But I don't know.
Is there a way, I'm thinking I wish I would have gotten this test when I was 15, 16, because it would have given me an idea. Have you heard about I can't believe that UFC, you mentioned, NFL, and places like that aren't implementing genetics like that. The way that we talked about in episode 1, the way genetics is going mainstream now, this is going to have to be a part of sports moving forward, don't you think?
Yeah. I know for a fact that it is. There's a few organizations, they stay pretty much anonymous, but they want to find an edge. And it's happening at the pro level. It's now moving into the collegiate level. There's a few outfits on the East Coast, we'll just call it, maybe Southern East Coast, that are using specific tests to look at between 100 and 200 markers, not just exercise, but also the recovery aspect is a really big component of how much can we recover. But then also, if there's a game involved, there's a mental awareness to that game and a mental strength. And there's a lot of really good genes that can give us, guidance as to how someone's going to handle that. So it's already there. I think that the protectiveness of it from people talking about it is they want an edge. They don't necessarily want other people to know that they're doing this stuff, but it's definitely happening. And it's a it's a thought that this is going to move down into high schools, because everything does trickle down. It gets down to where I just read an article, actually. There was a baseball player that signed with a development contract at the age of 12. Wow. With a professional baseball team. I'm like, is that insane? I don't know, but finding those edges, anything that you can do, and it's already there. People are definitely using it. I think that just genetics in general, and I think we've talked about this probably on every episode, but it got kind of a bad name because of some people in the industry that were selling shit and data to the wrong people. And first and foremost, the company that we're associated with, so locked down, secure. I feel really, really confident about it. It's literally the number one principle in the company is that data will not be rented, sold, used for anything, no price back giving, none of that stuff. I've seen the firewalls that it goes through. Privacy is a huge, huge important thing. And I think some other stuff is going on right now. I just heard in the news this weekend, some stuff, maybe data, during a study was being sold or something to a Chinese pharmaceutical company or something like that. Or
I think the FDA shut it down, right? There was genetics being sent to China or something. I think I was reading about that. Yeah, we'll bring that up on a.
So all of that kind of stuff has given kind of genetics in general a bit of a bad name in the last 4 or 5 years, and this mistrust of genetics. And I get it; it makes sense to me. But there's so much good information if you're just working with a quality company. First of all, if you find someone that's selling you a test for $69 or $89, I wouldn't do it. Number one, it's probably genotyping, not a good quality test. Number two, they've got to make their money somewhere. They're taking that data and selling it. So if you get down into those super, super cheap tests, I would just stay away from it.
So I can see the plus side here with athletics, where they they take this and they find out an athlete. Okay, hey, for me, for example, it could have been like, there was something about a power athlete potential, and shocker, I have a low power athlete potential. So I could have wasted a lot of time probably doing sports that I probably should have, been working on chess or doing something different, working on my chess game. But so they got ankle and hamstring injury risk. They got ACL and shoulder dislocation risk, and some VO2 max trainability, which is low for me. So, but so they got those things. Now I could see that being great because from an athlete point of view where to work, where to focus. Hey, I need to make sure I take extra good care of my ankles, for example, and my hamstrings. But where does that also kind of hurt an athlete where you see this and, a pro football team, for example, could look at this and say, okay, they have a low VO2 max trainability. Is that bad? Would that put a knock when you're talking about a draft that just happened and you're talking about picking players with edges over the others, where genetics is going to come into this at some point? I would think positively and negatively. There's pros and cons.
100%. Most of these companies and not just companies, but teams, they are a company, they're a business. They know this data. They're getting this stuff done. They want it on their athletes. From the standpoint that you just talked about, that if someone doesn't have, a good VO2 max trainability, that might be something that's of concern to them, especially if they're maybe a professional soccer team. And you tell me, yeah, endurance is going to be an issue. Maybe that's not the best fit for them. So it could hurt you, or maybe it's something you work on to get past. Keep this in mind. This is something that, again, we should probably mention this all the time, but your DNA is not your destiny.
Right.
You can overcome and get through things. Even when you have genetic breaks that you've inherited from mom and dad, you're still not 100% blocked. It's just the function in that particular section of the body is greatly reduced. Why it's so important to know this data. So if I know that I've inherited a genetic SNP or a break from my mom and my dad, I've got to really pay attention to that, that portion of health. One area for me is like liver health. I've got a certain break within, from both parents. So I take a nutrient called choline. I take it every single day because it helps me get past that in a methylation cycle. So the same thing with exercise is that if hey, injury could be an issue. I'm just going to focus on that. What can I do more? Does it mean that, I start ice baths earlier, maybe just on my ankles so that I keep inflammation down? The one section that you talk about, a power athlete, there's a great study around that actually, where, and I forgot the percentage, so I don't want to misquote it, but it's a super high percentage. If you were at the top end of that for the likelihood of being a good power athlete, it's like, I think it might be 70 or 80%, to be an Olympic athlete. If you know that when you're younger, or know that maybe as a parent to help show your child, hey, look, you have some good potential here. Let's develop it if you like this, and then let them go off and, work on it. But just knowing information is amazing for us, Dave. We just haven't been armed with it, and everybody gets stuck in these blood tests, which is great for a snapshot in time. When you draw that blood, that's that moment. The only thing I can think of that really takes a look at that on a longer term basis, like hemoglobin A1C, which is like a 90-day marker. But still, genetics is, we need to be looking at this.
Yeah, I guess I said it kind of in jest that I wouldn't have wasted so much time playing rugby, but that's not true. I probably still would have, but at least knowing, hey, this is where you have a weak spot so that I can put a little bit more energy and effort into repair, recovery, and just nursing those to make sure it doesn't become a bigger issue. But,
yeah. Did you have something that became a bigger issue?
Yeah, I got my ankles constantly. So I need to have it scoped and surgery on it from just constant sprains all the time. My right ankle is destroyed. So it's like, even you look at it, you can see my legs are different sizes because of so many ankle injuries on that, where I was on crutches or in a boot for that one ankle. So. So I don't wear shorts much,
Dave the boot.
Yeah. One leg Dave over here. All right. Anything else with exercise? So you're going to be implementing this, doing a little bit more HIIT workouts, running the hills a little bit more.
Yeah.
Is that kind of your
Yeah. I
plan?
mean, this whole journey of things that we're documenting right now is really, we're going to lay these things out. Today might be a little bit longer on our episode than normal, but I think we both kind of hit a topic here that we like. We like exercise. We like sports. So we were kind of touching on that, but I think that living our life by our genetics and the blueprint that it gives us, we're taking in all this data right now, researching, taking a look at where it kind of fits within me. And then once I have a plan assembled, I'm going to document it. We're going to just put this out and say, look, is cold plunging good for me? If it is, I'm going to get a cold plunge and I'm going to be in the thing, even if it just hurts. So we're just going to live life by genetics and we're going to document it. That's what this is about. It's just documenting our thoughts about taking genetics and living our lives by it. Type of food that we eat, the toxins and the Canadian nice smoke, that comes flying by. How are we handling that? Should we stay indoors? Is there something we should do to help with our lungs? Is there an air purifier in your house? I mean, there's so many things that we do health-wise, but are they really going to benefit you? Let's find out. And that's kind of what we're doing here.
I love it. All right. Well, another good episode. I think next week we've got some good stuff planned too. If you please like and subscribe so we can come up with more fun content, maybe get some experts on to talk a little bit more in depth about this, because I think we've mentioned this on every episode. We are not doctors or human biologists or anything else that I have a political science degree, and that's about it. So.
It's funny. I just changed my profile on my Instagram handle to say I'm not a human biologist. I'm not a physician. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a geneticist. I'm just a guy living life by genetics. And it's so true. We're just literally two guys just reading a report that we're intaking some stuff, and we're gonna live our lives by this. From exercise to food to everything else that you can think of.
Talk about what works, what doesn't work, and what we like, and nothing wrong with that. So,
yeah.
All right, thanks guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I will see you next week, Chris. Have a good weekend.
Sounds good.
Bye.